The Battle of Wolf 359 was officially one of the most destructive battles in Federation history. Starfleet lost over 35 starships and over 10,000 people were either killed or assimilated into the Borg Collective. Officially, it was seen as Starfleet's worst defeat in military history for over 100 years. But what about the ships? Admiral J.P. Hansen assembled a fleet of Starfleet starships to combat the threat of the Borg Cube. While the USS Enterprise de-engaged the Cube, Starfleet prepared to make its stand at Wolf 359. Multiple starships were pulled together at the last moment to combat the aggressor. While reinforcements from the Klingon Empire were expected, Starfleet even considered asking the Romulan Star Empire to aid them in the oncoming battle. Today, we look at every ship at Wolf 359. This battle introduced us to many Star Trek starships and kit badges of ships that have since become famous within the Star Trek community. Let's dive into Wolf 359 and take a look. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack. Before we warp into this video, if you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from a team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. But also, I pose a question to you. Would you love to see a Star Trek short trek, maybe where we see the full-on battle of Wolf 359? I'd personally love that. Okay, engage. Unfortunately, due to budget constraints within Star Trek The Next Generation, the actual Battle of Wolf 359 was never seen on screen. However, portions of the battle are shown in the premiere episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which allows us to get a sense of what caused so much carnage for Starfleet and the Federation. Thankfully, Star Trek community member JTVFX has been working on a fan project to show more of the Battle of Wolf 359. There is also an oral history project called Wolf 359 Project, which is a fan project that adds more detail to the battle. Out of the 40 ships involved in the battle, we only know the confirmed canon names of 17. The other 23 remain unconfirmed in Star Trek's canon. However, Star Trek Online the video game confirms all 40 starship names. This adds to the 17 known ones. We'll use this information for the video, but don't worry, we'll let you know when we do. Okay, let's go. While only seen as wreckage, the Cheyenne-class USS Iwani made its stand at Wolf 359. Classified as a light cruiser, the ship was among Starfleet vessels which were fitted with 4 warp nacelles. The class held a crew of just over 300 and was designed with a top speed at warp 9.6. Typically, Cheyenne-class would be tasked with deep space exploration and defensive patrol duties. The USS Iwani was ultimately disabled at the Battle of Wolf 359. It is unknown how many crew were either killed or assimilated by the Borg Collective. While the ship was heavily damaged, it did ultimately survive and was later salvaged. By early 2368, Captain Jean-Luc Picard had the USS Iwani join his blockade fleet on the Klingon-Romulan border during the Klingon Civil War. The filming model of the Cheyenne class was a kit bash by design. It was created by Ed Maraki and Michael Okuda. The ship was only built for the graveyard scene in the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. The parts of the model were built from a small scale USS Enterprise D model kit, saucer section and bridge module from another larger Enterprise kit. Fun fact, commercially highlighter markers were used for the warp nacelles. 2 Nebula-class starships were present at Wolf 359. While one was unidentified and only seen as wreckage following the battle, the other was the USS Bellerophon. This Nebula-class can be seen partaking in the battle alongside the USS Yamaguchi. Both starships aided the USS Saratoga, which had just been caught in the Borg Cube tractor beam. Ultimately, the starship was destroyed in the battle. The Nebula-class introduction at Wolf 359 led to the starship being featured many more times within the Star Trek universe. It was one of the many kit bash starships constructed to show the aftermath of the Wolf 359 battle. Some starships of the Battle of Wolf 359 were never fully confirmed in canon. An example of this is the Nebula-class USS Endeavour. If the Endeavour had taken part in the battle, then it looks like this ship might have been the only sole survivor, as it would appear in the conflict with the Borg in Star Trek First Contact. Some sources state a second USS Melbourne was launched earlier while still under construction. This was recorded as a Nebula-class starship. Star Trek Online displays a wreck of the PCU, which stands for Pre-Commissioned Unit of the Wolf 359 Memorial. One Oberth-class starship was present during the battle, the USS Bonestell, NCC 31600, which was destroyed during the conflict. As Benjamin Sisko entered his quarters on board the USS Saratoga during the evacuation, we can see the Bonestell being hit by a Borg cutting beam. The beam destroyed the front saucer section of the starship, which triggered a massive explosion, sending the wreck of the ship past the Saratoga. In a bit of Star Trek extended lore, which is not fully canon, the Star Trek Voyager novel, Pathways, makes reference to Captain Catherine Janeway having served on board the USS Bonestell from 2362 to 2365, meaning she left only 1 year before the Battle of Wolf 359. Close escape there, Catherine. Another kitbash model was the Challenger class. Identified as the USS Buran, the Challenger class was a small starship with a length of 390 meters. It had a crew of around 300 personnel and was equipped with phasers and photon torpedoes, while being able to reach top speeds of warp 9.6. While destroyed in 2366, the wreck of the Buran could later be seen at the surplus depot Z-15 in orbit of Quailor 2. Once again, the Challenger class was made by using parts from an Enterprise D model kit, specifically the saucer section and warp nacelles. Both Ed Meraki and Michael Okuda also used parts from a submarine model kit. The two did get confused, it seems, with what the other wanted for the ship. Okuda remembers the ship initially looking like a lollipop. He can't remember whose decision it was to put on the second nacelle set. Unfortunately, the Buran model was a one-time use model and was later stated to be discarded. Thankfully, visual effects coordinator Gary Hutzel saved the model and took it into his care. The USS Chekhov was a Springfield-class starship present at the battle. Identified as a frigate with a crew of 430, the starship came into a length of 325 meters with a top speed of warp 9.2. The class was primarily used for deep space exploration and defensive patrols. The ships of this class were equipped with 8 phaser arrays and 2 photon torpedo launchers. By the time of the Dominion War, the aging Springfield-class ships that were still active were slated to be decommissioned and replaced by more combat-capable starship types. Of course, the name of the USS Chekhov was a homage to the character of Pavel Chekhov. The ship was destroyed during the battle, but could later be seen among other vessels at the surplus depot Z-15. The design of the Springfield class shares some resemblance to the Cheyenne class. This model was also constructed once again using parts from a small-scale Enterprise D model kit. More highlights and markers were used for the warp nacelles. The Chekhov was built as one of the characters in the episode was supposed to mention the ship. While filmed, it was eventually cut from the episode. Star Trek Online also lists the USS Anderson as a Springfield-class starship. Multiple Constellation-class starships took place in the Battle of Wolf 359. The one we know the most about is the USS Constance. This starship was hit several times on the dorsal hull and suffered critical damage. During the chaos, engineer Liam Shaw and 50 crew members made it down to the life deck. Unfortunately, there was only one life pod with 10 seats available. Shaw was the final person to be put into the life pod as it jettisoned. A Starfleet redacted war damage report would list the USS Constant as lost in action on stardate 44002.3. As a ship known for defensive patrol duties, the other Constellation-class ships would also put up a good fight. Thanks to Star Trek Online, we know that the USS Bastion, USS Galatea, and USS Saleya were also present at the battle. In some Star Trek expanded media, the USS Victory was listed as a Constellation class. We've recently done a complete breakdown of a Constellation class starship here on the Trek Central channel. Go check it out. Only one Freedom class starship, the USS Firebrand NCC 68723, took part in the engagement. This ship class was noted for its unique design, consisting of only one nacelle. The Firebrand was destroyed in the battle. Of course, the Freedom class was another scratch-built kitbash studio model. Gregory Jean created a model for the graveyard scene. The previous official Starships collection referred to the Freedom class as a light frigate, around 430 meters in length. Starfleet would primarily use this class for light exploration and planetary surveys. One of the unique features of the class was the phaser cannons found on the ventral surface of the primary hull. 2 New Orleans class starships, the USS Konum and USS Kyushu, were present at Wolf 359. Both were destroyed. The New Orleans class is noted for sharing several design elements with the Galaxy class, featuring at least 3 sensor pods along the primary and secondary hulls. Like most kitbash ships, the name of the class of the ship was never spoken on screen in Star Trek. The studio model of the ship was designed by Ed Meraki and would appear as a wreckage at the Battle of Wolf 359's graveyard scene. Eagle Moss would build a full CGI model of the New Orleans in collaboration with Fabio Passaro in 2016. This was for use in the Star Trek Starships collection. Star Trek's Excelsior class ship is quite famous. Multiple of these ships took part in the Battle of Wolf 359. These ships included the USS Hood, USS Melbourne, USS Righteous. Interestingly, the USS Hood has appeared in Star Trek multiple times before and would continue to do so after the events of Wolf 359, suggesting that the starship survived the engagement. The 1995 Star Trek Deep Space Nine comic by Malibu Comics mentioned the Hood participating in the battle. This means the ship would have been a sole vessel that survived the engagement. However, canon sources indicate the USS Owani is the surviving ship. Star Trek Online's Wolf 359 missions also reference the USS Hood and Excelsior class being present. Perhaps it is salvaged or repaired following the USS Iwani being presumed the only sole survivor. One Niagara-class starship was present, the USS Princeton. While the Princeton was destroyed during the battle, the wreck of the ship would be located at the surplus depot Z-15. The model of the Niagara-class was created once again by Gregory Jean. It was another Kit-Bash studio model. Star Trek Starship Collection would tell us the Niagara-class starship had a crew of just over 500, with the ship coming into a length of 565 meters. 10 phased arrays were fitted onto the ship. The most well-known Miranda-class ship present during the battle was the USS Saratoga, which Benjamin Sisko was stationed aboard. While attempting to engage the Borg cube, the Saratoga was locked into an attractor beam. It drained the ship's shields and they eventually failed. The Borg would fire their cutting beam into the Saratoga, directly hitting decks 1 through 4. This crippled the ship, causing critical damage and killing the captain and other officers. With a warp core breach not far away, Lieutenant Commander Sisko ordered an evacuation. He made it off the ship with his son, Jake, but sadly his wife, Jennifer, had died in the attack. The Saratoga was ultimately destroyed by a combination of a Borg and the warp core breach. Star Trek's beta canon also lists the USS Hoogeland and the USS Reliant as Miranda-class vessels present. This is not the same Reliant which was lost in the Battle of the Mutara Nebula, but rather one launched to replace the ship. Star Trek Online would list the USS Mjolnir and USS Sonak as Miranda-class starships present during the battle. Ambassador-class starships were present during the Battle of Wolf 359. Typically, you remember the ship class being represented by the USS Enterprise C. Well, the Ambassador was a tough ship, and multiple of these fought at the Battle of Wolf 359. In canon, we know the USS Yamaguchi was the lead ship here. We see the USS Yamaguchi and the Nebula-class USS Bellerophon rushing to the rescue of the Saratoga during the battle. Both ships were destroyed. Some non-canon sources have listed the USS Karuska as being an Ambassador class. Star Trek Online lists the USS Gore Bimgral and Saval as the other Ambassador-class starships present at the battle. All were destroyed. According to Star Trek Online, the Narendra-class also participated in the battle. 2 of these ships, the USS Endurance and USS Roosevelt, were present. The Narendra-class is a ship from Star Trek Online, which is based on designer Andrew Probert's original design for the USS Enterprise C. Naturally, it's named after a planet where the Enterprise C was lost. At least one Constitution II class ship is seen within the destroyed ship wreckage of Wolf 359. This was the same class of ship as the USS Enterprise A. At this point in time, the ship class would have been considered quite old, but likely could still put up a bit of a decent fight amongst the fleet. The ship was never identified by any name for the battle. In reality, the model of the Constitution II class for Wolf 359 was actually the same model used for the auto-destruct sequence of the USS Enterprise in Star Trek The Search for Spock. They had just reused the model for some of the wreckage. Star Trek Online lists the Constitution II class as the TS Republic. This is the USS Republic. The Republic's prefix has been changed since its previous mentions in Star Trek, with TS standing for Training Ship. The registry prefix is also changed from NCC to NAR. Star Trek Online tells us the ship was only really used for training missions. After it's destroyed in the battle, it makes sense of the Constitution II class wreckage seen in the Next Generation's The Best of Both Worlds episode. According to Star Trek Online, 3 Centaur-type ships were present during the battle. The Centaur-type ship was first seen in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, represented by the USS Centaur. The design of this ship was similar to the older Walker-class ships in service to Starfleet. For example, the class features only a saucer section connected directly to a small secondary weapons pod. This would house the photon torpedo tubes. The ship's nacelles were then connected directly to the pod. Looking at the weapons pod on the Centaur type, it was very similar to the configuration of a pod on the Miranda-class line of starships. There was no visible deflector dish or larger engineering hull that was typically common on Federation ship designs. The Centaur was another kit-bash model. It was created from the saucer and warp nacelles of a USS Excelsior model kit. The torpedo roll bar and bridge were used from a Miranda-class USS Reliant model kit. Now, was a Galaxy-class starship present at the Battle of Wolf 359? The details surrounding this are vague. For example, within the wreckage, 2 Galaxy-class type nacelles did not come from any of the studio models used for the battlefield. Some sources state that Admiral Hansen's flagship, which was destroyed, was a Galaxy-class starship. This would explain the nacelles being present. Additionally, the original script for The Best of Both Worlds Part 2 states Admiral Hansen's ship was a Galaxy-class ship. For example, this is also supported by the fact his message to the crew of the Enterprise D came from a Galaxy-class battle bridge. Obviously, this just means they reused the set in the episode. The novel Vendetta by Peter David also mentions that 1 Galaxy-class starship was destroyed in the battle. Of course, these novels are non-canon sources, so take them with a pinch of salt. Star Trek Online lists the Galaxy-class USS Columbia as a ship taking part, which would confirm the Galaxy-class as Admiral Hanson's flagship. Thanks to book sources and Star Trek Online, we have some ships mentioned but never made it on screen. For example, the USS Gage was a Shikar-class starship. This class design comes from Star Trek Online, and was intended as a replacement for the old Miranda-class designs. The USS Gage was actually mentioned in the script of Deep Space Nine's premiere episode, Emissary, but it never made it onto screen. A cutscene involves Sisko informing his captain that Admiral Hanson had deployed the USS Gage, Kyushu, and Melbourne. Star Trek Online tells us that 3 Shikar-class ships took part in the engagement. They were called the Gage, T'Pau, and Tishenkoville. The USS Garrett was a Jojo-class ship, another ship introduced by Star Trek Online. The Jojo class was a 23rd century Federation Starship class, a fast battlecruiser in Starfleet service designed prior to signing the Khitomer Accords in 2293. The class was named to honour Captain Philippa Jojo. It would bear resemblance to the Walker class and the later Centaur type. The USS Ibn Sina was a Parliament-class starship. We've actually seen the Parliament-class on screen in the animated series of Star Trek Lower Decks. The USS Kaneda was an Akira-class starship. At least one Vesper class took place in the battle. This was the USS Shaki-Ri. Okay, you asked for it. According to Star Trek Online, here is the full list of every starship of the Battle of Wolf 359. Get ready, cue the music, and have some respect for the Trek Central video editor who will have to put this list together. The USS Iwani, USS Anderson, USS Bastion, Bellerophon, Bonestell, Buran, Chekhov, Columbia, Constance, Dunkirk, Endurance, Firebrand, Gage, Galtea, Garrett, Gora Bimgral, Hood, USS Ibn Sina, Kaneda, Konum, Konami, Kushu, Liberator, Melbourne, Mjolnir, Princeton, Republic, Righteousness, Roosevelt, Saratoga, Salea, Shaki-Ri, Sonok, Saval, T'Pau, Tishenkoval, Valek Shran, Tolstoy, and finally the USS Yamaguchi. Yes, I am aware I likely butchered some pronunciations here, but you can forgive me for that long list of ships in such a quick succession. So, that's our complete report on the Battle of Wolf 359, and every starship that took part. Did you enjoy this video? If you'd like to see more battle breakdowns like this, let us know in the comment section below. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.